Good morning, everyone. If you're playing a lot of online Tekken this week, then you're being fisted day and night by the veiny, wrinkly old hands of Leroy Smith. But then again, maybe that's preferable to whatever's going on with Zafina's left hand. Imagine her inserting that and then activating this parry. Anyway, I've spent the day in practice mode trying to learn how to play against Leroy, and I'm going to bring you guys some information on that right here. I'm just going to say first of all that I think this character was designed to be extremely good, the best character in the game by a margin right now, I think, and so even though you can improve your odds by learning the matchup, you're still going to be at a disadvantage when you're playing against this character because he's just that powerful. But let's see if we can't learn something. So first of all, I want to talk about this string, something that you see people throw out a lot right now. It's the 1-1-1+2 series. So the first thing to know about this string is if I key charge and hold back here, the whole thing is natural on counter hit, so an extremely powerful counter hit move, very fast to impact. Second thing to note is that if you do block it and they still finish it, that final hit, the mid at the end, is actually -16. So unless you're like Bob, you can actually launch punish it, so that's pretty cool. Not going to be happening that often though. So what you really want to do to deal with this string is, it goes high mid, bunch of highs, and then a mid. And the bunch of highs in the middle is what you can duck and potentially do something to. But it's kind of hard. Reason being, if I do this with kind of sloppy timing here, what I tried to do right there was duck and then do a while standing launcher. And unless I time that really well, what's going to happen is I'm going to stand up into Leroy's combo right there, and I'm still going to get knocked down. So you have to do something very specific to make this work. There are three options you have really. The first one I found that I think is really the best one, or like most reliable one, is if you have something good from full crouch that crushes highs throughout the entire animation and still gives you good damage. So not a while standing move, but something like Zafina's down forward 3 from full crouch into a stomp. That is like impossible to mess up. It's still a very good chunk of damage for a punish, and you don't run the risk of getting knocked down. So this is like a really sort of easy, reliable option. And if you have something good here, I recommend it. Like if you're playing Miguel, full crouch down forward 4 into the guaranteed forward 4-2-1, for example, is going to be a great option. But you might not have something for that, or you might really want to capitalize with a launch punish, which you can definitely do. But you have to use specific timing. There are two windows you can use to place your punish. The first one is the hard one, and it's ducking the first high and then doing your while standing launcher really quite quickly. And that's mainly going to work if you have good high crush properties on your while standing launcher, but Zafina does with her while standing too. So let's see if we can make that happen. Too fast. Kind of like that. So that's something that you can do if you duck the first hit and then do something quite quickly, but it can be finicky and risky. So what I recommend you do instead is stay patient and wait for the window at the end of the string between the second to last and last hit. Even if Leroy doesn't finish the string, you should have enough time to punish this from while standing with a launcher. So I'm going to try it with while standing 1-2, which is 15 frames from Zafina. So you can tell that I really have quite a big window here if I just stay patient to squeeze my launcher in. Now that's 15 frames, and you might be one of those characters where you don't have a 15 frame launcher from while standing. Maybe your fastest thing comes out like 18. But we can actually illustrate the fact that that still works because Zafina has an 18 frame launcher in the shape of her while standing 2 here. It's difficult to do because you have to be even more careful with your timing and you run a bigger risk of getting knocked down, but it does still work. And you can tell right there that it's still going to get in the window even though it's on the slow side. So those are my tips for how to deal with this string. It's really quite good and quite finicky, but I think for the most part what I'm going to do is just go into crouch and then do something with good high crush from crouch. Like if you're Katarina, down forward 4 from crouch here, might get the counter hit for a guaranteed follow-up. There are a lot of different options you could come up with. Moving on. The next thing string I want to talk about is the full crouch low into a launcher that he has. And this is honestly not that powerful a move, but people seem to be using it a lot. So the first thing to note again is that this is a counter hit launcher, so if I get counter hit by the low, I'm going to eat a massive combo here. So when he's crouching, be careful that you don't get counter hit by this. But as long as you don't, the string isn't amazing because the follow-up hit there, the mid, is actually minus 13. Meaning that you can actually get a good chunky little punish here. It's not fast enough right now. There we go. Or maybe go for a fast, nice 10 frame. So it's very, very important that you do actually punish this mid when Leroy allows you to, because if he can tell that you're not going to punish this properly, then it's a very high potential reward move for him with low risk. So very important to actually sink a punish into him when you block that mid. But I think that is a move that's going to fall out of favor in the next couple of days because it's not as powerful as you might think. Unlike the next move. Next thing I want to talk about here is the down 1+2, which is that middle hit right there. I've sandwiched it in between two jabs just for the purpose of illustrating a couple of points. But this is a counter hit mid launcher that is very, very good, and it's, as you can tell, when it gets blocked here, it says 0 on both sides, meaning that it is plus minus 0 on block, so neutral in terms of advantage, and that's actually really good for a move like this. So the first thing to note is that you can actually step this. I've heard a lot of people say that you want to step Leroy left, but in the case of this move, you definitely want to go right. You can step this really quite reliably to the right if you're close enough to him, like this. And you can tell, if I start going left instead, that he's actually going to catch that, even if I do it with like the exact same timing. So in the case of this move, definitely try and step it left, and that's going to be quite easy. You do need to know that it's going to come out, of course, but if you do, step it to the right. The next thing to understand about this move is that even though it is neutral on block in theory, you know, plus minus 0, it does force you, as the person who's blocking the move, into full crouch. So, to illustrate that, he's going to do the move, and then do a jab. I've mashed out that jab. So if I do my while standing 4, which is my fastest while standing move at 11 frames, and Leroy does a 10 frame jab, then he should beat me every time because he comes at 1 frame faster, right? And you can tell that he's going to do that. So be very aware of the fact that you are in full crouch after you block this. So you have a couple of options here, and I think one good option a lot of the time might be actually to just stay down here and do a down jab. That's going to interrupt a lot of stuff and give you nice advantage back. Pretty low risk, so I recommend the down jab in that situation. But just don't do anything stupid and be aware that you are at slight disadvantage even though the frame data is neutral, because Leroy has like super powerful stuff, especially for counter hits, and you don't want to get hit by that stuff. But yeah, very good move again. Step it to the right if you're going to try and step it. The next move is even more powerful, and I think this is where it really starts to become obvious that this character is designed to be like busted, because this move right here is absolutely insane. So it's a low, it's a down 3-2, a low into a high. That's natural, you can't block it. So first of all, it becomes a low poke with a really massive chunk of damage attached, right? The damage is very high. And then he's going to transition into a mix-up stance with 8 frames of advantage. That is absolutely insane. The way low pokes tend to work in Tekken, if you look at this back 1+2 here, for example, is that this is actually -2 on hit. Low pokes tend to have no advantage or even disadvantage on hit because they're not meant to be used as setup tools for mix-ups and advantage. The way you use them traditionally is you stack them on the opponent to annoy them and get like chip damage, and then if you can annoy them enough that they start ducking, then you can be there and mix in mids. And so that's how you incentivize people to like eat mids in Tekken, is with low pokes. They're not meant to like lead to big mix-ups, but in the case of this thing, it's going to go into a mix-up stance with +8, and it's just crazy good, and there isn't that much you can do to deal with it unless you block the unseeable low poke. But if you have the, you know, if your read is that hard that you're just going to do that, then you can just parry it, I guess. But you know, low pokes that are fast and unseeable are going to hit a majority of the time you use them. So it's like mix-up insurance for Leroy right here. But if you do manage to block this, you can start walking. In the case of this 1+2, I've recorded right here. This is an option that I think you should walk to the left. and then you can do some sort of punish after he finishes it. But yeah, this move is absolutely crazy. Just be aware that he's going to have massive advantage and be in hermit stance when this connects. So try and block it. And the mix-up that he does after hermit, the low that he has is a March of Tyranny, so it's a 2-hit low. If you block the second hit of that, it's actually minus 15, so you can get a nice punish in for doing that. But yeah, this is just crazy, crazy power, and it's oppressive enough that there's not that much you can do. He's always going to get the chance to mix you up when he's using this. Another thing to note that I forgot to mention is if we have him do it again right here is, because the second hit is high, you can stay crouching if you block the first hit and then duck the second and do a while standing punish. But yeah, insane power. Next move I've recorded is, yeah, this thing right here. Interesting thing that you should be aware of when it comes to this down 2 into the second low right here is that even on hit you can actually block the second low right here. But if I turn on command history, you can tell that if I get hit by the first hit of this like that, and then I just hold down, I'm actually going to eat the second hit every time. I can't block it by holding down. I need to block specifically with down back. And if I do that, then the block is going to happen properly. And when it does, this is only minus 11, which is really great for Leroy. That's super, super small for a low like this, but you can get a wild standing 4. So, you know, if you're Leo, you're going to be happy about that. In Zafina's case, she gets an 18 damage wild standing 4. That's about what most characters are going to get here, but just be aware that if you see this and you're going to try and block it on reaction, don't go for the parry, it's not going to work. Don't try and hold down to block low, definitely hold down back and then it's going to work. But again, like a really good string, and the fact that it's only minus 11 is kind of crazy. I think for a normal character that would be at least minus 12, probably 13, and maybe even launch punishable depending on what character you're talking about. The last couple of things I want to bring up here is the fact that when your back is against the wall against Leroy, it's really so oppressive and claustrophobic that it's insane to me. He's very good on a wall-less stage, but when you're on a, let's take control of Leroy and talk about a couple more moves like that. So when your back is against the wall, when you're playing against Leroy, there we go. I think the craziest move he has, more or less, I mean, where the frame data is just completely insane, is the up forward 2. This move is like stupid, okay? So what this move does is it's going to jump in from really far. It's a gap closer. It's mid. It costs a wall bounce. You're going to get a massive combo when it connects, but it's also +1 on block. This gives advantage on block, which is complete insanity. It's like craziness. It's completely off the charts in terms of properties, this move. I mean, this would be like at least minus 13 for a normal character, but not only is it safe, it gives advantage, right? So this is going to fuck you in the ass when you're near the wall. What you can do when you're facing this is if you're very close to Leroy, it is steppable, but if there's just a little bit of a gap, it becomes risky enough that you're just going to eat the up forward 2 at an angle and he still gets the combo. So extremely oppressive, and even if you do try to step this and you do it successfully, forward 3 from the same range where this is really good is a homing move that's going to fuck you in the ass, and the back 4 is a wall splatting long range homing mid that is safe on block. So when your back is against the wall and you're playing against Leroy, you're really in a really bad spot. And the mix-up is insane as well because he has stuff like this, right? So it's just a really, really sticky situation to be in. But you can step this if you have really good timing and you're close enough to Leroy. And in terms of the forward 3, you have to predict it and duck it because it is a high. But this move also gives him 1 frame of advantage, the same frame that he gets off of this on block. So yeah, his gap closing game is completely insane. And my biggest tip if you're on a wall stage against Leroy is just do whatever you can not to be eating mix-up against the wall. I know that sounds stupid because you're going to do that no matter who you're playing against, but if you need to like eat some damage or do something stupid or risk it to just get your back away from the wall, then prioritize that. Walk sideways and really try and keep as much air behind you as possible because you don't want to be eating these wall bounce moves. They're completely insane. The only really good matchup that I found for Leroy when testing Leroy was Leroy, because his back two, this parry, can deal with a lot of options because it's like an extremely good and almost broken parry. Zafina with her, you know, this thing, there are very, very few things that she can actually parry fast enough, you know, when Leroy is just doing strings. But those are just a couple of tips to really improve your chances against some of the most common tools that you will see from Leroy. This wasn't everything. I might do a part 2 where we talk about more stuff, like maybe how to deal with his Oki and so on. But I hope it was useful enough, and I hope you're staying strong out there in the Leroy jungle. It really is really quite difficult to play online right now because so many people are using him, but stay strong. I believe in you, and hopefully the balance patch, the emergency balance patch with a capital E, is not that far away. But for now, thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye bye for now.